thank you very much for coming to the studio. The music is fabulous.
Thank you.
When did you start doing music?
I got a guitar for Christmas when I was 8 off my dad. After a divorce, it was a good Christmas. It was my parents split
It was a
up.
divorce present.
It was a divorce Christmas present. I remember getting a telly off my mum and in a little PV practice guitar, like a short scale guitar, in a PV practice amplifier, which I used to just turn all the knobs up to full, which sounded awful, but back then it was just loud and great in my head.
You still got that guitar?
I still have it, yeah. I still
play it?
I still play it. Yeah. I don't play it live or use it. It's just more sentimental value.
So a lot of your music is very political. When you sit down to compose your music, what comes first, the words or the notes?
I'm first going to start by saying I'm not like politically eloquent or anything like that. It's more like I'm just speaking about what I see on the news or what I see online. You know what I mean?
Well, your music is politically very eloquent.
Yeah. But from the perspective of a 20-year-old kid from the northeast. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think the lyrics tend to come first. I'll just jot down notes on my phone or if I've got a notepad, I'll write.
Give me a practical example. So you said, you get inspiration from the news. So you will see something on the news, you'll write it down. What happens then?
So the perfect example would be Hypersonic Missiles, the title track of the album. I was reading that it was a Russian nuclear missile that had been leaked to NATO by a scientist. And it's this missile that travels faster than Mach 5. Travels at 2 kilometers a second and hits its target within 6 seconds of it being launched. And it's the fastest missile on the planet. Can't be shot down by American satellite defense systems and can carry warheads. So I read that and went, that's pretty bad.
There's a song in that.
I was like, that's pretty mad. And then I wrote this I created this character about who's this sort of like conspiracy theory believing sort of slacker that indulges in the fruits of the Western world and loves junk food and loves movies and loves American stuff and loosely kind of based on myself. And
I was going to say,
but it's supposed to be a love song. But the character's terrified of the end of the world, and that the whole sort of song is actually it's about hope and about love. Really, it's actually it's a kind of unorthodox love song, which. Where the main character thinks the world's going to end, but it's this big confession of love in the middle. So you're saying, I believe in what I'm feeling, and I'm firing for you. This world is going to end, but till then, I'll give you everything I have. Which is, I think, the kind of mantra that I live my life by. It's like just love your family, love your friends, look after each other.
So you wrote those words down, and then what happens then in terms of fitting those words around music, around notes?
Well,
what's that process?
Then I tend to pick the guitar up and come up with a melody. And then that can be tough sometimes because with songs, obviously, sometimes you've got certain stanzas, you've got to like fit them in to the verses. You've got to shoehorn lyrics in almost, which can sometimes sabotage your writing because you might have to chop bits out and stuff. But that's the skill, I think, of songwriting, which I'm still yet to I'm still trying to learn as much as I can about it. But so yeah, then the guitar comes, and then I just go in the studio and I put all the drums down, I put the drum tracks down, put the bass down, and then as of late I've been putting saxophone on everything because I just love saxophones. So.
And these are serious issues. So you talk about the fear of nuclear missiles. Climate change also figures quite heavily, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, that is our main fear. I think that's the main threat.
Is that your main fear as well?
I would say so. Yeah, I think it's the main threat to our species, isn't it? I mean, as I said, I'm not an expert, but from what I've gathered, if we don't do anything in the next 10 years, we're in serious trouble. So, I think it's about time that we start doing stuff.
And do you hope that by writing songs about that issue, you make it come alive for yourself and for your fans, but it could also affect some kind of change?
I'm not on a crusade to I'm not on some sort of political charge to change things, because as I said, I'm not politically eloquent enough to do that. I don't think I'm clever enough to take on these issues. But what I can do is write a song which puts things into layman's terms and speak for normal people, I think, because I'm just a normal kid from Shields, and I write about what I see. And I think that's what's been connecting with my fans. And my fans have been coming out and going like, yeah, I see the world in a similar way. And that's been the beauty. And to be honest with you, most of the fans that I meet, some of the young ones as well, like, so these kids that are 16, they're really, really switched on. Like, they're cleverer than I am. And I'm sitting talking to them and they're out protesting. They've got, they were definitely more politically active than I was when I was 16. So I'm just really grateful and inspired that kids like that are inspired by me music, because they inspire me in turn.
So you write about politics as well. Politicians playing God. What's that all about?
Well, I wrote that song quite a few years ago, probably about 4 or 5 years ago, and I just read 1984, and I kind of wanted to just create this sort of Orwellian dystopian world, loosely based on ours. And I think it was around the time when there was all that phone tapping stuff was happening as well, and I was, quite paranoid by it all. And I see, that something's up when Mark Zuckerberg is putting tape over his camera on his computer. Like if he's having to tape his camera up, then it's like, oh, that's a bit dodgy, So I started just writing this song about this dystopian world, about the kind of prospect of there being powers above the government that pull the strings. With that line, I said, like, no matter who you are, where you've been, he's watching from the screen, which is very Orwellian. Keeps a keen eye on the in-between, from the people to the queen, which is, I kind of wanted to create this world where, like, the people that we see in power aren't actually in power, and there's actually something beyond that we have no knowledge of or control of.
And tell me about the Northeast, where you're from. You write a lot about austerity, about people feeling just miserable about their surroundings. Is that the way you feel as well up there?
No. I'm very lucky. I've been very lucky to do music and have a career and stuff. A lot of my characters are fictional, but are based on people that I know or people from my hometown. There was a time in my life where me and my mother were struggling, and at the time it was just me and her, and that was tough. It was tough because when you're worrying about money, it has an effect on everything else. It has an effect on not just your financial situation, but it affects your family, it affects your mental health, it affects everything.
And talk to me about mental health, because that is a massive issue, especially amongst young men.
Yeah.
What's your personal experience of that, and how do you write about it in your songs?
Well, I wrote a song called Dead Boys because I lost a friend to suicide. And I also knew somebody else who I wasn't as close to, but also knew, it's a small town that I live in. So it was two wonderful people who sadly took their lives. And I wrote this song purely as a reaction to that. It's more just about, it has no answers to it or anything like that. It's purely about how other people feel around that, like the reaction to losing somebody. And then in turn, because when I wrote that, I became more sensitive to male suicide. And then I was starting to see all of the suicides like around my hometown. There was quite a few, and they're all young lads as well. Well, not actually young lads, just lads ranging all ages. And then I saw the stats. It was like 84 lives a week, 84 men take their life a week, and it's the biggest killer of men under the age of 45 in this country, over cancer and car accidents and everything, which is completely staggering. And I think that then I was hesitant of releasing the song because I didn't want to be seen as capitalising on a tragedy or capitalising on something on a friend's death. But within our internal circle, our friends started opening up and talking about things. And there was people that I was working with who was like, oh, I've never told you, but my dad actually took his life. And I was like, I've worked with you for how long? And didn't know this. And, suddenly it was like, oh, this is creating a conversation. So we released it. And since then, it's been nothing but positivity and awareness. There was actually so much so that there was a guy who was actually on his way to end his life. He was going to run his car off the road. And I was on a radio show. I was talking to Nihal on 5 Live about Dead Boys, about the song, and about male suicide rates, and about how I suppose it's the stigma surrounding that, and the stigma surrounding men maybe opening up or talking. And the guy coincidentally heard that and had the radio on and heard that, pulled his car over, stopped, he sat on the road. We found out about this 6 months later. He cried for 3 hours on the side of the road, apparently, then drove back home, went to his wife and went, I need help. I was going to do this, but I need help. Then got the help. And then 6 months later, we received this anonymous email of this guy. And he said that you and Nihal, he says that because of that chat show, he's like, it stopped me. And then he came he came to a show. I met him personally. He's staying anonymous. He doesn't want anyone to know. And he was, I had no answers from him. I'm never going to overestimate the clout of my job. I'm not a hero. I'm not a doctor. I'm not coming up with, science. They're the real heroes, the policemen and the ambulance, the paramedics and stuff. They're the real heroes, the doctors and the teachers, not singer-songwriters. But it was that moment that there was one point in my career where it was like, actually, sometimes songs can connect with people in such a way that it can do something amazing like that, that I actually gave my job a little bit more clout than I thought it had, you know what I mean? And it was the most incredibly humbling experience. And still to this day, it doesn't matter how many albums I sell or how many gigs I do or how big they are, it doesn't matter. That is the best thing that's ever happened in my career. Like,
I can imagine.
it was just incredible.
Sam Fender, thank you very much.
Thank you.